Hi everyone, welcome to the July 16th, 2026 meeting of the New Hampshire Network Energy Working Group. And our agenda today is to celebrate a bill that passed. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And we did a brainstorm about what our big projects could be, if any, and we will review that and have a discussion about that. And then any other topics that other folks would like. Oh, and one more thing is that I'm going to turn on the AI companion, if that's okay with you guys. You're going to see a pop-up on your screen to okay it. And so first of all, yay, SB 538. Sarah, why don't you give us a summary of what it was and the victory that it is?
Yeah, we talked about this a lot in the spring. We had, and it's been so long, I can't exactly remember how many, but we had a number of communities representing something like 20% of municipalities statewide sign on to a letter telling relative the appropriate legislators that this legislation really matters. What it did and now does is make it so that for political subdivisions, so that's schools, municipalities, government entities, they get access to a guaranteed 20 years of the net metering tariff, which is important because the current net metering policy only goes out until 2040. And this legislation is specifically related to the group net metering that political subdivisions might want to engage in. So imagine being able to have a big solar field on your capital landfill and being able to share that across multiple meters, or even share that with a neighboring town. The way that those projects are typically financed requires outside financing because towns don't often have the means to invest in that directly. And that outside financing really needs a long runway to make the numbers pencil out. And as we were approaching 2040, those projects were just getting much more difficult to pencil sort of rapidly and in a somewhat theory way. And the obvious fix was simply to say, like, this is nonsense. This was never meant to shrink that. It's just we haven't updated the net metering rules. Let's just make sure that at least for our political subdivisions, they get a guaranteed 20 years from the start of their project so that they have a hope of getting the numbers to pencil out. So that's what happened. And it was a wonderful show out of like really well-spoken, very practical people coming out and saying, just this is silly not to do this and help out our communities to be able to access this resource, the impact of which stabilizes energy costs for municipalities, and who doesn't want that? So now we can say that municipalities who are interested in being part of these large arrays that are shared among multiple meters and multiple communities can do that, and those projects will continue even if that metering isn't updated. We know for sure that the financing can work out, which is great.
Sarah, what
Yeah.
didn't make sense to me is that there's this date that these projects have to start, and how realistic is it that there are many projects that are going to be able to take advantage of it in the future?
I would need to read the text of the bill right now to make sure I wasn't misspeaking. So with that caveat, the original hope was that we would be able to make this retroactive so that any project that is currently on net metering that qualifies as one of these political subdivisions on a group net meter project would have their term extended to 20 years after their start date. It doesn't look like that was in the final bill. I read it quickly and I did notice that as well. What my interpretation was that, okay, well, it looks like they didn't want to bother helping the projects that already penciled out, but this will help anybody that starts now moving forward. That was how I read it. But if you read a different thing, I can make a note and just make sure that my policy team weighs in on exactly what this is and how it will affect projects.
Okay, thanks.
I was thrilled mainly because when you did make the request, Sarah, of people going to their town council, etc., I felt like, oh man, now I have to understand this bill, and I made a little presentation, and I had to get on the agenda. And, I've been fighting for clean energy for 10 years, and 99% of the time I get on the agenda and I make presentations and I go to the town and blah, 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 and then nothing happens. So when this actually passed, I was like,
Yes,
oh,
it actually
it's
happened.
actually worth it, So for me, I
I
was
know.
like, all
And
right.
it did feel good. And a lot of people did exactly what you did, put themselves on the line and went and got their select boards to sign a thing, which is not easy. And it worked.
All right. Any other comments or questions about that bill? All right. So I just wanted to share with you. Oh, let's try to make this bigger. Right. So last month we had a brainstorming, and we had more people in that meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have too many today. And what we brainstormed in this document was just ideas on, if we had big projects that energy committees worked on together across different towns, what might they be? And what would the outcome be? So this is the results of everybody just brainstorming, and then people voted. So for example, you may see this idea: promote energy coaching for all types of home, weatherization, and energy projects. These initials are people who voted for that idea. So I went through, and so our top votes were indeed promote energy coaching for all types of home weatherization and energy projects. And the tie was with this one, heat pump accelerator, which might be, of course, very closely allied to promoting energy coaching, because one of the results of energy coaching might be to get a heat pump. And then the next most popular one was sharing actions that energy committees are doing that have been successful. How to energize your committee, doing more community education, that kind of thing. And so that's what the group who brainstormed came up with. I was kind of hoping that Patsy or Lisa might be on the call today to talk more about energy coaching. But Bill, you're an energy coach, aren't you?
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly.
I'm trained. Actually, Sarah, since I talked to you on Monday, I guess Frank has reached out, and I might be working with the hub.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the ones, go ahead, Bill.
Anyway, there's I think that Patsy is part of the NADMAC Sustainability Hub, and they seem to be the main group that's in kind of a full service coaching mode. And not only that, they have money that has been raised to support consumers participating in similar programs that were part of the IRA and disappeared, I should say, for the most part. There is still a program here, HEAR, that is the remnants of the IRA, where there is some money still going to be available through the state. But at any rate, I think there's a lot of people that have been trained to be coaches, and like me, have been underemployed, mostly because we don't know how to get customers, if you will, or clients. And the hub, I guess, from what I understand, they had similar problem, but their solution was to reach out and get funding from the community. And I just read today that they had 100 inquiries in the last month or so. And suddenly they have people that are interested in getting a coach.
In large part because they're giving out money. Yes.
Right.
What was
And
that?
so, because they're
I
giving
said, and to
money.
your point, in large part because they're giving out money is
Right,
the difference between the
right.
interest they had previously and the interest they have now.
And they've been able to, get people's attention. Um, so I think that Patsy's notion is good. I voted for it, but um, the main issue that is around funding is a tough problem to solve generally across the state. And again, there is this rebate program from the IRA that has struggled or languished, I guess is more a better word. The state, I guess it's Department of Energy, responsible for the program. I'm not entirely sure. Um, the program now has an administrator uh, contracted, and the word is that it was going to start working with contractor uh, jobs being eligible for consumer rebates. Um, However, program has also been seriously redirected by uh, the Department of Energy on the federal level, who is responsible for defining its regulations. And the biggest thing is that there, and this goes along with heat pumps. Um, I know a number of people who are wanting to take advantage of these rebate programs for heat pumps, and the rule that the Trump administration came out with was uh, they will not issue rebates for, quote, fuel switching. So if you want to get rid of your oil as your primary source of heat, the interpretation is that the heat pump may no longer be reimbursable. So it's that's I think a significant uh, legal challenge to what the intent of the IRA was. But anyway, I think again the problem is incentives here, and uh,
So it sounds like the Monadnock region has some incentives, whereas I'm in Merrimack, I guess you'd call it the southern Merrimack Valley or southern New Hampshire, South Central.
yeah,
And we don't have any such incentives, and so it makes it harder to coach. Um, anyway,
Well, conceptually, but something about the coaching model that I like is that it adjusts with the incentives. And the primary issue is that even those of us that are savvy in these things don't fully understand all of the programs available to our neighbors to help them with this. And I'm looking at where you are in Merrimack, and you're on Eversource territory, and there's a moderate income weatherization program that'll fund $15,000 worth of weatherization if you meet a certain threshold. It's new,
yeah,
nobody knows about it. The
right,
coaches in the Monadnock region are aggressively pushing it and getting people enrolled in that.
okay, so
Um, so there are things, and the heat pump accelerator, while the midstream incentives that have just been rolled out are not dramatic, they can be stacked with the existing NH Saves incentives, and that is more incentive than has been available to date to help with heat pumps. And that's another thing that I don't think hardly anybody knows about. So there's a whole lot of things now and in the future. set aside that the Monadnock region happened to raise $450,000 to just give people money directly on top of those things. Right. Any region could benefit by having some savvy volunteers who actually understand the current programming and make it known to residents that they can help.
Okay, so I'm ignorant on this insofar as like our energy committee has sponsored several NH Saves button-up workshops. And each workshop, we usually get like 3 people who attend.
Right.
And of those 3 people, maybe one person actually then goes to the website and fills out this stuff and gets an energy audit. So
Right.
I'm assuming that energy coaching is different and somehow you're trying to get a higher rate of influence or something. So maybe Bill, Sarah, some of you could talk like, how is energy coaching different than just doing more button-up workshops?
Well, in the way that they've done it in the Monadnock region, they've got a host organization that's a nonprofit. So they've got somebody who's actually paid staff coordinating this sort of complicated database of coaches. All the coaches themselves are volunteers and the organization is volunteer led, but there's a bit of paid staff time. And they have sent many of their coaches through the same training Bill went through, which is this national Electrify America or whatever it is training. And then and they've done some complementary local pieces as well. And they, for a long time before they had this fund associated with it, they were simply using the fact that it was housed at this local organization that had a contact list that it had amassed over a period of time to just send out into the community, like, we have coaches, contact us. And instead of hosting a button up, what they were trying to do was get somebody to reach out to the hub and say, I'm thinking about an EV. And then the staff person in the middle was looking through the volunteer list at where they live and what the coaches said they were expert in and try to pair them with someone nearby who said they wanted to talk to people about EVs. And it's just matchmaking service. And then those people get matched and they go and have a conversation. And there's some more structure that the hub has developed, but they were having trouble getting people signing up for coaching. There was a lot of interest in people becoming coaches. And then there was a period of time where there was just a lot of really bored coaches and not a lot of people asking for information. And somewhere around that time, the hub, which is, the Monadnock Sustainability Hub, started raising money in response to the federal incentives going away. It was right around the big change in administration. And there were some very well-motivated, well-connected people associated with this little nonprofit saying, what if we could raise money to replace those incentives and offer them through, our little private shop instead of through the tax credits that were to be offered. And so they got some funders to get excited about that. And they raised a couple $100,000. And then they designed a program that was attached to the coaching program. We accessed that money, which was designed after what the incentives were supposed to be through some of these federal programs that got yanked, if you get assigned a coach and you let a coach walk through it. So suddenly there was quite a lot of demand for the coaches because they put the coaches as a prerequisite to accessing these privately raised monies to pay you back up to $7,000 of whatever project you chose related to electrification. And that's what they're in the middle of right now. And they just rolled out the program in the last couple of months, and it's had huge uptake in interest because all you have to say is free money over here at a time when people are scared about their energy bills, and people sign up. So that's what they're experiencing. But initially it was really difficult for them to get people to say, I would like some coaching. And then the other avenue is this model that I used to run in the Weatherize and Solarize campaign model, where you try to, it's not exactly coaching and it's not exactly the button-up workshops, some hybrid of the two, where you try to pick a period of time to do a lot of outreach about a particular action, and you try to sweeten the pot by either really emphasizing this incentive that's available that you don't think people know about, or you try to negotiate with the contractor to get a bit of a discount, or you try to throw in some sort of raffle or something, and you see if you can't get as many people signed up specifically for an energy audit or specifically to get a solar site inspection within a given period of time. And that is much more effective than hosting a button-up workshop because it's so targeted on the action, and it's, as opposed to just getting people to show up for for a talk.
I think other states, there's also been other nonprofits that have sponsored work at a town level, or similar to what Sarah was talking about for solar, and contracting or coordinating with heat pump installer. And again, there's some benefit in having a number of potential clients that would be attractive to a HVAC company or electrical firm for doing a bulk purchase type of setup. But short of Clean Energy New Hampshire, there aren't all that many nonprofits that I can think of that might have the clout to try and take this on. There are these other volunteer organizations. Another paid staff organization is Plymouth Area Renewable Energy Initiative. And I think they've been focused primarily on solar, but they might be working on a group purchase of heat pump hot water heaters. And that's sort of a foot in the door about a more generalized, if not coaching, a coordinated group purchase.
And that was Hooray, Portsmouth Area Regional Energy Initiative?
Plymouth area.
Okay. Is that the same, like in each, like I'm familiar with Hooray, Hillsborough Area Energy, mainly I think of them as solar panel people, but they're more than that? Or is this a different organization?
They're different kinds of organizations, although they do share a name.
Okay.
Hooray, I don't think has, it's all volunteers to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah. All right, so there's only 5 of us here, and Tim and Ada have been pretty quiet. Tim, Ada, do you have any thoughts on energy coaching or heat pump accelerator as a focus across our various energy committees?
This is, excuse me, this is Tim from Sandwich. We are looking into the heat pump accelerator program, but haven't gotten very far with it yet. And the energy coaching is not something that we have addressed yet.
In terms of the heat pump accelerator, Tim, I would be curious to know, when you say you haven't gotten very far, is that as far as you've gotten? Have you looked at the 3 tracks and have thought about which piece you are interested in? Would you like a quick summary of what I mean by that?
Sure, go ahead. What we have recently heard about it and decided that it would be good to learn more and schedule a public information event in the town at some point this fall.
Got it. Super helpful. And just briefly, popping into the chat, just the website for the program in case that's not obvious to everyone. But I've been thinking about it as having these 3 tracks, one of which is most immediately relevant to you. And the 3 tracks are this sort of blanket group of midstream incentives that are being applied at the distributor level, and residents really don't have to worry about because they should just be automatically applied. But it's a pretty important piece of public knowledge to know that they are active and that they should ask their installer to show them like where it's showing up in their bill, that there's this midstream incentive that's been applied, and to sort of be aware of what that is, and that is something that's ostensibly bringing down the cost of heat pumps for residential customers. And all the information about that incentive is on the website. It really breaks it down. They're called pass-through incentives on the page, and the page that's linked goes right through, how much per unit and per ton for which kinds of equipment this is meant, which is helpful. So that's where I am assuming that your group will focus. And please keep me posted, because my team at Clean Energy New Hampshire is meeting next week, because we've got this not ready for prime time heat pump 101 guide that we had been tossing back and forth. And I attended a really helpful talk by someone in the Upper Valley at their Upper Valley Roundtable, who is involved in marketing heat pumps, and had some really sharp questions that you should be asking your heat pump installer. And my team was thinking, oh, we really need to bake that into some sort of 2-pager that would be helpful to folks like you trying to do outreach about heat pumps. Just like, can we get some standard current information about the current programs and the things you should be asking your contractors, and some of the basics out there. So if you get more serious about doing that outreach, just check with me and see if you can't get a version of what we're working on, if I haven't already sent it to you.
Okay.
And then the other 2 tracks are community grants and state grants. The state grants is a chunk of money that's been set aside for each state to develop and implement its own program, but we don't know what that looks like. And the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, which is point for New Hampshire on this, has been very mum, and we have no idea what they're thinking. So at some point they will announce what they would like to do with their allocation. And that could look like anything, including a grant program. And then the third are these community grants that are open to anyone across the whole New England region that's part of this big project. And they're trying to make sure that each state is being awarded one or more of these grants per cycle. And there's going to be 3 grant cycles. The first application is due in a month, and they're pretty big. It's $100,000 to $400,000. They're meant to be these big, innovative pilots of ways to advance heat pump technology to target low and moderate income communities. It's a whole thing. Clean Energy New Hampshire is involved in a couple of applications to try to make sure that there's at least a viable project going in from New Hampshire, so we don't miss the boat entirely. And the 2 projects that we are currently looking at include the Monona Sustainability Hub, the next round, to see if they can't use some of these monies to help their work go further. And then second is I'm kicking the tires right now with some partners up in the Laconia, Tilton, Franklin area. There was an issue with Liberty running out of gas capacity. They provide gas for heating up there, and their pipeline just maxed out, and nobody knew it was coming. And it's a whole bunch of developers that were planning on connecting to gas and now cannot. And it's a whole to-do. And so we're considering targeting that region with some free engineering and design support to help educate those developers about heat pumps being a potentially viable alternative to gas. And our sense is that there's really very little awareness of technology in that neck of the woods. So we're considering to partner with Resilient Buildings Group to provide some of that.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of potential here, but also with 5 people in this meeting, in terms of what does the work group want to focus on, it feels like I feel like, I can't say the 5 people who actually attended picked it. On the other hand, I could say, hey dudes, you didn't come to this meeting, so we decided for you that your energy committee is going to focus on heat pumps. That just doesn't feel right,
I mean, I honestly think you can go to the higher ups of the New Hampshire network with these you already have and say, it's trending in this direction. And how we're doing on heat pumps. There's a lot going on right now. And coordinated about how we learn from what the hub is doing with this coaching model, and maybe collaborate across the state in imagining what other models in that vein we can kind of co-create and learn from each other. And maybe that evolves into a big group focus, or maybe for now it's just shared learning. And then the third is sort of the obvious thing we already do, but I don't think we have to add anything new. And I think you could say this is evolving, but I like the idea that we are as a group attempting to be somewhat focused in addition to the therapy session.
Right. I always appreciate the therapy session. I will say.
And honestly, in this world, and I know struggles with this, every month is different. It's like we can think we know what makes sense for this group to be talking about, and then 2 months from now, some other big program will be getting close to the election and something else is blowing up. So what I like about this group existing is that the priorities are quite nimble. Our groups are trying to respond to what our communities need.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea that I can take the results of this brainstorm and this meeting to the steering committee, because we're also looking across the working group. We have a climate working group, we have a legislation working group, we have a plastics working group, and we are meeting with an organization called Slingshot that is a consulting organization that helps nonprofits focus their efforts. And that's part of why we did this brainstorm is Slingshot's going to ask us, so New Hampshire Network, you know, what do you think you want to focus on? Where do you want your impact to be? How do you want to measure it? That kind of thing. So from that standpoint, I can at least, you know, bring this back. I'm feeling like that's about all we can talk about in regards to what do we want to do with this brainstorm information. I don't think we can decide as a whole. This working group decided, yes, we're going to focus on heat pump or energy coaching, but it's a good idea to bring both forward to the steering committee. Anybody else have any comments? Ada, you haven't said anything yet. Tim? I saw you went off mute, Tim.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add. I'm really just trying to get a little orientation to what this group is doing. Catherine Thorndike has been our chair, and she's been the one who's, and Wharton have been the ones who are involved to date. So I'm just sort of more in the listening in mode and trying to figure out what's going on.
Certainly, yep, and that's understandable, right? And we're familiar with Catherine and Morton for sure. Ada.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Finally, sorry, because I put a mute for the microphone, but now I can open. I'm student at Revere University, and I have to attend this meeting, which I don't have any idea about the energy. That's why I stay quiet.
Gotcha.
Okay, well, welcome. And if at the end of the meeting, Ada, you want to stay on for a minute or two to understand more about what this meeting is all about, I'm fine to, you know, give you more info.
Yes, please. This is new to me.
Okay. All right. So if nobody else has any other topics, we don't need to spend a whole hour.
The only other thing I'll throw out is that I was chatting with my team this morning, and I'm putting a link in the chat to the document that we put together last year, listing as many energy committees we could get our hands on, and asking them if they'd be willing to be listed publicly, and including a bit of what they were up to and how to get in touch. And we're a year in, and I always intended to update that annually. So that is something that I'll be working on over the next month or two when I have a moment, is reaching out to everyone listed here, trying to get them to update their information, but then also trying to fill in gaps, which may be where some of you may be helpful in tracking down communities that should be on here but are not. And then we should probably be using this list maybe more aggressively to recruit folks to join this meeting, which is something that I know I've been talking about for a long time and I haven't been particularly helpful or consistent in doing, but would still be worthwhile, particularly because the benefit of this group does stem from there being good participation in it.
Right, and I'll say this to the five of you, but this is also recorded. We're always open to changing the day and time. I realize that this is in the middle of the work day and not everybody can make it, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Agree. And we should periodically throw that out. And this is a public list. So at any time, any of us could send an email to all the people here and say, hey, do you know about this meeting? And is there a better time?
Right. Right. Okay, well then I'm going to officially end this meeting and stop the recording and stop sharing. And